Hey, it's Marko here from Fair Realty, Victoria, BC. Today I'm going to talk about the masterful job the government is doing in manipulating the public through various changes in housing policy, noting that these changes are going to improve our housing crisis, when actually in the background the government is introducing a bunch of obstacles to housing that's actually going to make our housing crisis worse. But if you're not informed, all you're seeing is what the government is presenting you in the media. I could talk about this for hours. Actually, I could talk about this for days, but let me touch on something very specific. I'll use a BC example here. So the BC government, through BC Housing, has an exam called the Owner Builder exam that was introduced 8 years ago. I've made many videos on what nonsense and what a BS obstacle to housing this exam is, both in terms of delays time-wise and the cost associated to owner builders. You can watch those videos, but essentially 8 years ago, the BC government introduced an exam for owners wanting to build something on their property if they weren't hiring a licensed BC Housing builder that required them to write a nonsense exam, even though they had to go through all the same municipal regulations, inspections. They had to hire all the same professional, such as a structural engineer has to go over the drawings, inspect the framing of each house. So you still have to do everything that a licensed builder would have to do, but you also have to write this nonsense exam that helps no one actually build a house. And they introduced this exam without any evidence to introduce another obstacle to housing and another cost. In the last 8 years, 12,000 people have written this exam, and the government has not released one document noting what the benefits of this exam are, what it's changed, if anything. Absolutely nothing. So recently, this leads me into this. Recently, in the last year, the government rolled out their new brilliant zoning policy across BC that's not going to require most municipalities to allow triplexes, fourplexes, up to sixplexes on the vast majority of building lots or properties in British Columbia. But what they didn't change is this owner builder regulation. The owner builder regulation or exam only allows you to build a single family home with a suite. It does not allow a property owner to build a triplex or a fourplex or a sixplex on their property. So you're going to have owners that where the zoning on their property has increased, let's say, to a fourplex, but they're legally actually not allowed to build a fourplex. They have to go to a licensed builder. Well, on the flip side, BC Housing is also making it very difficult these days to obtain a builder's license. There's less and less people out there with a builder's license. So it's going to make it more and more expensive to actually execute this. There's a lot of other obstacles that have been introduced at the municipal level. For example, in the city of Victoria, I made a video 4 or 5 months ago about soil sample testing. It's getting to the point where even though the BC government has increased the zoning to fourplexes, on the back end, what you can't see is all the obstacles that are put into place to prevent people from actually building fourplexes, whether it be the exam, whether it be financial extra expenditures through soil testing. So you're actually not going to see many multiplexes being built in BC whatsoever. The numbers are going to be very, very minimal. But the government is using the change in zoning policy to buy votes. But feel free to comment in 5 to 10 years on this video. You're actually not going to see very much being built at all, because the government is continually piling on obstacles to housing actually being built that you can only really figure out if you're really informed. If you're watching this video, you've probably never thought of this angle of the owner builder exam only allowing that owner builder to build a single family home with the suite. So you can build a 10,000 square foot house on your lot as an owner builder, but on your own property that's now zoned fourplex, you're not allowed to build a 4,000 square foot fourplex. Just complete nonsense all over the place. And that's why in the city of Victoria, even though the Missing Middle initiative, which was ahead of the province, which rezoned most lots up to sixplexes, we still haven't seen a sixplex be built. Because when you actually analyze the government obstacles, whether it be the BC government or the municipal government, the city of Victoria, it's either just not feasible or not economically feasible, and nothing's being built. So the government is selling people on things changing in terms of policy, but we're actually going to see less housing being built going forward, and the housing situation, in my opinion, is only going to get worse. That's it for this week. Marko, Juras, Fair Realty.